Don't look at the ceiling. It's been 2 days since they arrived. They are best thought of as the harbingers of doom. Since then, Earth's population has dropped by 1 billion. A billion. That's a seventh of the previous population. The population controlled by law and order in hopes of keeping peace. The government, the organizations, they never told us what it was. All they said was to stay calm, don't go outside, and under no circumstances, look at the ceiling. From the moment that announcement was released, chaos has ruled. Why the ceiling, many people asked. In pure truth, it's not just the ceiling, it's up. The sky is now populated with these creatures, if you can even call them that. The most curious and highest ranking minds were the first dead. As such, the world's government dropped by their knees and gave in. If you look at the ceiling, it is guaranteed you won't live to see the next day. As far as I know, no one has. The people who would have studied them have already all died. It wouldn't really matter anyways. If you look at them, you're dead. The worst part is, it's not an automatic death. You have to wait until sometime near the end of the day. At that point, your body will be controlled into killing you. You won't be the only one to die. Anyone around you is in danger. They can die at any time if you've been infected. Your mind isn't controlled though. You are well aware what you are doing is wrong. You can't control your movements. You can't control whether or not you drop a concrete block on someone's head, or if you do kick that stranger into a ravine. You just can't control your movements. The mindless killing drives you to insanity until you want to die. None can be trusted. The death of the infection spreads like a virus. They seem to want us dead. Dead like them. Those husks of chaos. No one knows where they came from or why they do what they do. No one has any way of knowing except for the doomed, like me. I saw one this morning. I am now writing this, having accepted mine and the human race's fate. The visual of the creatures, if you can call them that, is undescribable. I only ask that you visualize the embodiment of evil, of all pain and suffering. Whatever you see, it's 10 times worse. You must embrace our doom, and know that there is no hope left in the universe for us humans. The only thing left to hope for is that in the far future, if some exotic species visits our planet, they find this entry in one of the thousands of places I am uploading it to. One of the online servers, or now chaotic social media sites. I also have provided the best translation method I can think of. So, if you, off in the distant future, are reading this, good luck. Do not let the same fate befall you. Hold on. Why am I moving? Wendigo psychosis is the irresistible urge to consume human flesh, named after ancient Native American myths and legends. The cause of Wendigo psychosis is currently unknown. Aztec, New Mexico. Population is approximately 7,000. The town lies just a few miles off of the Navajo Reservation. It's where I grew up, and it's almost where I died. In 2013, my freshman year, I arrived at school and immediately noticed the air was thick with fear, sorrow, and dread. People were crying and holding each other. No one would tell me why. An assembly was held that morning. The captain of the sheriff's department spoke to us. Some kid had gone psycho that night and murdered his mother, father, and 8-year-old sister. The murderers were nauseatingly brutal. They could not give us any more details. School was dismissed early that day. A few months later, another murder happened. An article was published in the newspaper 2 days later. The murder was eerily similar to the ones a few weeks prior. The victim had been approached by another man, deathly pale and sweating. The victim had tried to speak to the man, who then proceeded to scream, rip the victim's throat out with his teeth, and eat him while he was still bleeding out. This happened in the supermarket during the day. By the time the police arrived, the victim was obviously dead. The perp was killed by a shot to the abdomen. The murder rate in Aztec, New Mexico skyrocketed the next few months. It seemed every week was a new murder, most of which ended in the victim being eaten. The high school was a few blocks away from the elementary school my mother worked at. After school, I would walk to the elementary and ride home with my mom. With the rise in murders, I started walking with groups of other students. Most of the time, the others would reach their destinations before I did, and I would walk the last block or two alone. The school year was almost over. We had just a couple weeks left. I was walking alone to my mom's school. I heard footsteps behind me. I turned around. There was a woman. She looked fine. She was texting with one hand, holding a briefcase in the other. I relaxed and continued on. Suddenly, she screamed. I bolted around. Someone had lunged at her from one of the alleyways I had just passed. It was a man. He had a small frame, maybe 5'6", 140 pounds. He was sweating profusely. He had a hold of her texting arm. I could see his nails gripping her forearm so hard that she was bleeding. She swung the briefcase and knocked him over the head. I had no idea what to do. I backed up a few paces and dialed 911. I watched as the man lunged at her and brought her to the ground. He began clawing at her stomach. Blood gushed over his hands. Frantically, I told the operator what was happening. She said police would be there in a couple minutes. The man leaned forward and bit the woman's throat. Her scream turned into a gurgle. He jerked his head back, and with a fountain spray of blood, it was over. I turned to run as he began eating her. I suddenly heard running behind me. I felt an iron grip close on my shoulder. I was yanked to the ground. The man was on me, blood dripping from his mouth. He pinned me to the ground and began bending down to me. I felt a chunk of broken concrete beneath my right hand. I grabbed it and smashed it down on his own hand. He howled and let go. I brought it up onto the side of his head with a sickening crack. Blood poured from his temple. He staggered back, dazed. He regained composure, screamed, and lunged at me. He gripped my shoulders. I could feel his nails digging in. He pinned me to a wall and bit down on my right shoulder. I screamed and tried desperately to wiggle out. I was not going to die there. I kicked his left knee as hard as I could. I heard a crunch. He fell and I was able to escape. I was bleeding bad. Suddenly a squad car squealed around the corner. 2 cops jumped out and fired on the man. He fell after being hit 6 times. I spent 2 days in a hospital, mostly to make sure I didn't get an infection in my bloodstream. I ended up getting 48 stitches. My family and I ended up moving to the opposite corner of the state. The murders continued in Aztec for a few months. Psychologists, the CDC, and the government took a huge interest in the town. It was described as the single worst case of mass Wendigo psychosis in history. After a few months, the murders ceased. I almost died that day. I don't know what was wrong with those people. Maybe it was some sort of mental sickness. I don't know.